Hi, and welcome to Carriage House Conversations. I didn't tell you that's the name of it, Carriage
I
House
love
Conversations.
it.
Isn't that cute?
It is
Yeah.
very cute.
All right, this one is going to be so fun and so easy, and we look like Easter bunnies together today. I said we look like we could be sisters. It's going to be so fun and easy because Sam is a baker, and not everybody knows, but I did that in a previous lifetime for like 20 years before I came to the barn. So it should be easy for me to ask questions of you. But this is Samantha from Samantha's Kitchen. So I'm super psyched to have her here to be talking about cakes, cake pops, cookies, desserts, sticky buns, whoopie pies. I mean,
Sugar in
everything,
general.
everything. I'm trying to think of all of the desserts that I've seen, and they're too numerous to mention. But thank you for coming down today on this beautiful spring day. Not it's supposed to be 60 something today, though, so it's going to be good.
It snowed yesterday,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it'll be 60 today.
It's going to be nice today. So Sam lives in Lock Haven. Tell us a little bit. I know you have two precious little babies.
I have an 8-year-old and
Is he 8 already?
Yeah, an 8 and
Oh my
3.
gosh.
Yep, Freddie and Maxwell.
Well, imagine, this is my 7th year at the barn, so
Yeah.
holy stromboli. I didn't realize he was 8.
And the first year you had an expo.
Yeah.
Do you remember he was like in that
Yeah.
carrier? Yeah.
Wow.
He was baby for that expo.
Wow.
And it was the first year that I came here. He's 8. He's a handful. And then there's the 3-year-old who's totally different than him.
And he's 3?
Yeah. And I was just pregnant with him, right?
Yes. That's what I mean.
I know, it's gone so fast. That whole year of like 2020 though, I was like, where'd that go?
Right. That's right.
So.
Okay. All right. So, and then Fred, your
My
assistant.
husband, yes. He works for the bakery, even though he doesn't know it.
I think he called himself glorified assistant, glorified deliverer. He referred to himself as something precious one day. Yeah. Yeah, he's great.
He admits to it.
Yeah.
The unpaid help.
Yeah, that might be what he called himself. Yeah. So you guys live in Lock Haven.
Yes.
Deliver here all the time. So how long have you been baking?
So I've been baking for about 15 years. And I've had my bakery for 12 years.
Okay.
And the first 5 years I was on Main Street in Lock Haven as like a full, you could walk in, you could pick out of the showcases, do orders, and basically I lived there. And that was in the beginning of my husband and I's relationship. And then when we decided to have children, we moved into our home. And I have a full commercial state licensed bakery in my basement. So, because people say, oh, it's in your house? And I'm like, oh, no. The health inspector comes in and, yep, it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Do you miss storefront?
I do. I really do a lot. But I know my kids are only young ones.
Right.
So I hold on to that. And we did look at a building before I got pregnant with Max. We weren't sure if we were having more. And then I found out I was pregnant. So we have ventured that way a couple of times. I think once the kids are in school and, I have those 8 hours to do something, maybe. I think someday definitely we'll move it out of our house again. Just right now, this works best.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to be able to be home with the kids, run upstairs. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we need dinner now. Okay, I'm going back to work. Okay.
Yeah. And you can work from home and be up until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning when the kids go to sleep. You're not somewhere else coming in, waking everybody up.
And I can work through the night and then in the morning, get everyone ready for school. And it just has worked out best. As much as I want to be in the public, it just isn't right now.
Yeah, gotcha. How many weddings do you think you do, let's say, prime season, a weekend?
Oh, I won't do... Okay.
Yeah. We all say that. I won't do. Okay. I can do it.
I won't do more than 5, but I won't do more than 3 on a Saturday. I've said that. I've done 4, but I don't think it's fair to my clients because it's not that I'm not giving them my best, but delivery times might have to change, and you might not get me setting it up. You'll get my assistant, my husband, or you'll get Kathy, one of my help, like, and I want to be the one finishing it. When I set it up, I want it to be, and I've worked with a lot of florists and I love them, and they'll be like, I'll finish it. And I'm like, I'll finish it. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, I like to, but lately I've been having Sunday weddings. Last year was so strange. I had a lot of Sunday weddings. So if I'm booked for a Saturday and they are on a Sunday, but I don't like to do more than 3.
It's nice to have Friday weddings too, because then they're like out of the way.
It's like it's when they're Friday and Saturday. A couple times last year I was here Friday, then Saturday, and they're nice too. It makes for a busy weekend, but I don't typically work Sunday or Mondays. They're like Monday's my day in the office and Sunday's my day with my family. So, but if it's a wedding, I make an exception.
Do you think people are doing more dessert bars nowadays, or are they doing a mix of both, or traditional cakes?
When I started in the industry, it was cupcakes. Like everybody did cupcakes. But I'd say in the last 5 years, it has really changed to dessert buffets, which I love.
Me too.
Because
Me too.
There's people who are like, I don't like cake. Well, there are 6 other options. I really love dessert buffets, and they're beautiful set up. So that's more of my specialty is a dessert buffet. And I kind of steer people that way unless they're totally against it. I do have people that still want a tiered cake, which is a great option because you can do a small, tall tiered cake and still the desserts. Typically when people say I want like a 3-tier cake, they think just in their head it's going to feed 200 people, which it doesn't have to. You know that. You can make it as small as you want. So I would say definitely dessert buffets are the trend. I still do quite a few big cakes. I don't enjoy doing big cakes in the summer because I worry about them constant. So I'll text you like at the end of the night, how was the cake today? And it's in air conditioning. Yeah. And sometimes I drop them off not in air conditioning. So the rest of the day I'm like, okay, am I going to hear from this person? Is it okay outside? Oh, God, I know. So
the stress, like your stomach is in knots.
Until you hear like, oh no, it was great today. I'm like, okay. It's not that I need to know how it tasted or any of that. I just need to know it made it.
Yeah, but the care, you care about your product. So it's not like you're dropping it off. All right, see you later. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I love a dessert buffet too. That's my favorite. And, talking about a dessert buffet though, this is off topic of cakes, but so many guests walk up and eat desserts before dinner, after dinner, before the cake is cut. They just eat the dessert. I always suggest when I'm meeting with the bride, if you're going to have a dessert buffet, put a nice little sign on the table that says, please enjoy dessert after dinner. Please enjoy dessert after the cake is cut. Now, some brides don't care. They're like, there's a lot of dessert. They can have it where they want. But most brides do care because they're going to cut the cake and the photographer is taking that photo and you want it to look beautiful.
Yes. I think in the beginning of doing dessert buffets, it wasn't brought to my attention. And then it's like when you see them in the photos, you have all these empty trays or half empty trays. And if you have cannolis, the tray's not pretty when they're all gone. And I do think a huge part of a wedding is the photography. I think that's huge. And, the bride looks back on it and wants the pictures to be perfect. And I do think a sign is required. There was one wedding I had here a number of years ago. Anyway, they had a huge cocktail hour up there in the top of the barn, and they had the dessert buffet set up, but then the cake was somewhere else. And she was like, oh, no, that is for cocktail. And I was like, oh, well, in that case, it's fine. Like, let them eat it then. You know what I mean? Because in the photos, you're not. So I do think if a bride doesn't care, put the cake somewhere else.
Right. Good idea. Separate them.
Yes. But in photos, I think it really does matter. And a sign, I don't know why guests do that, though.
I don't know
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't do that at a wedding.
Yeah, no, a sign is a good. We've already had people come up, and we had one event where things were covered. They covered them so people would, and they lift the cover and ate them. It's tough, yeah,
Like,
yeah. And we've had brides ask our servers to stand in front of the table and guard it so people don't eat them. Which, I mean, we try and do if they ask us to do that, but we, often don't have extra staff to do that. They're
right.
onto another task or something. But all right, so if you don't want someone to eat your desserts, make a sign. And they have cute little sayings. It can be fun and cute. It doesn't have to be like, don't eat this.
And normally in a frame.
Yeah.
And like when I set up, normally the brides that I work with, I bring all my own stands.
Yeah.
And only at Herman Luther's is where I pick them up. So like if I'm working somewhere else, I'm like, they're required to be back to me in 5 days. But I always pick them up here. It's just worked out so much easier. So I prefer to use my own stands because I just bring so much. And if I run out or if it doesn't look good, but I always say put the sign in a frame and then it looks pretty and doesn't like just look like you put a piece of paper on a table.
Yeah. Or a nice, everyone uses the acrylic signs now. Have a nice acrylic sign made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And speaking of you doing the trays and everything, for us, we don't provide the trays.
No.
And a lot of people think that we do or kind of just assume that we do. So if they're, say you're not doing desserts and they come here with desserts, they, maybe it's not the bride, maybe it's the aunts or something setting up dessert, and they say, well, where are the plates for this? Where are the trays for that? And then they're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to remember here to make sure if you're doing desserts other than Samantha's, that you bring those trays and those sorts of things with you.
That has happened just last fall, and I use your dinner plates. I mean, it wasn't like my typical setup, but they didn't rent from me, so I didn't bring them.
Yeah.
So,
which we don't typically do because, again, it's not. Don't want to use like.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, but we're in a bind. So, right.
It looked fine when we were done. It just wasn't our usual.
Right. Yeah. Any idea how many flavors of cakes you do? I know.
I guess I should have counted them. At least 10.
Okay, what's your most popular?
Almond.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because I use an almond emulsion. Actually, it's not the nut. So a lot of people refer to it as wedding cake, like the white wedding cake.
Mm-hmm.
The cake's a little denser, still very moist, but I think people associate it with wedding cake.
Okay.
It's like it's not your typical. It's like a notch up from vanilla.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, vanilla, chocolate, but I think for weddings a lot of almond. Yeah, I do a lot of strawberry cake in the summer because it's pretty too when you cut it. It's pink. So
I was just thinking, like, one of my favorite things that you do is a strawberry cookie.
They're my favorite cookie.
That's my favorite.
And they're beautiful on a display because they're pink and white, and they're, and I always try when I'm working with a bride, I'm always like, I don't want bride and groom or bride, whoever I'm working with, I'm always like, well, this will look really pretty, or this, because if they just name everything and it's all brown, you don't want to look at a table and the whole thing is chocolate and brown.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and not a lot of people think about that.
Right.
With Christmas cookies or anything, you want color thrown in there because
or drizzle
something.
Or something.
Yeah. Because when you're doing chocolate chip cookies and snickerdoodles and whatever, they're all just basic tan kind of looking. So when you throw in those colors, yours are always beautifully displayed, and that makes a big difference.
When they choose like a sugar cookie, I'm like, do you want a colored icing? And it's not to be like teal, you know what I mean? It's like, what about a little blush pink or
right?
And typically with my cake balls, which are also very popular, I think because they can just take them and walk away. When I do them for a birthday party, they're sprinkles. I never would recommend sprinkles for a wedding. You know what I mean? That's not elegant. But you can still add color with gold or silver or something like that.
Yeah. Nice. So, how far in advance do people book your services?
Oh, Well, when I first started, people would plan their weddings like a year in advance. But in the last, I'd say 2 or 3 years, it's been more like 6 months,
Really?
which is hard to plan. Um, I do talk to a lot of brides in like October, November, and December for the following year. And I always say, if you're in, June, September, or October, you need to plan now. The other months, the hot months in August or like August, July, August, April, May, I'm always like, you might have a better chance of me being like, oh yeah, I have an opening. But June, September, and October are typically booked.
Yeah, they're the
December or
crazy months.
January.
Yeah. What about tastings? Do you wait until someone is booked with you, or do you offer them before they book with you?
So before I used to do, you come to my house, not in the bakery, you come to my dining room and you sit down and I have this conversation with you and we taste it all. And then COVID happened and that ended all that.
Right.
So now what I do is I offer a cake tasting box. And honestly, I wanted to go back to the dining room and everyone comes and you can have, up to 6 people, but the box has worked out so nicely that people prefer that. So now I do a cake tasting box and there's 10 samples of cake.
Oh my goodness.
So what I do is I kind of like layer it. I make 6-inch cakes and I cut them into 6 pieces. So you get a pretty big slice of cake, but I do like a lot of my flavors. And then I cut all these cakes and you get these little triangles of different flavor cakes in the bottom. And then on the next layer is the fillings and icings, and I do 12 of those as well, just random off my list. And then on top, when you open the box, is 2 cookies, cake balls, and normally a brownie or whatever I'm doing that week that's specialty. So if I'm doing cannolis, you'll get one of those. And so the cake tasting box is pretty large, and it's $25 just to get the box. I used to charge it onto your wedding cake, but now it's just at pickup. And then I normally do the cake tasting box. I'll do like 20 in a weekend. Like I'll do them all in the same weekend. So I have like 20 brides come and pick up these boxes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do they have to be booked with you, or like
Nope.
could I call you and be like, hey, oh really?
I get a lot of people, like some people that I know in town, they'll be like, oh, I just want to get one for the office. And then like at lunchtime, they sit around and eat it. Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Because you want to taste the fillings with different cakes.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll do like one cake that I put a filling in, just as an example of what it would look like. But I typically don't do them all that way because I want you to taste what you want with what you want. And people have honestly preferred it, I think, because they can take it to family, or it can be, sit down, have a glass of wine, and eat my cake.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
Yeah, and that's nice because sometimes I know, like when we do tastings here, it's like me and a couple sometimes. So, if you're not that outgoing kind of couple and you're sitting with the manager of the property, it's like not really comfortable all the time. But if you can take something to go and, like you said, sit with your family and a glass of wine, that's so much more comfortable,
They
for a lot of people.
They really have worked out more, I guess, better than I anticipated.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know that anybody can grab one of those.
And I typically do them once a month. So I picked in March. I have like March 18th. I'm doing a cake tasting box, and that's what I'll work. I'll focus on. And then, and then a lot of brides this year, just because like a lot of dates have filled up, I do have a lot of people that book with me before the tasting. So they'll book with me just to save the date, and then pick their flavors after. So I don't require that you know exactly what you want because I'll be like, how many guests, how many this, and they'll be like, well, I don't know that. I'm like, it's really rough. It's really just, so we have like a starting point, and then 2 weeks before is when decisions have to be finalized and everything. So you have some time in between the tasting box and your final date.
Gotcha. I had a question and I lost it there when I talked about bookings. I lost it. Anything you want to add about your business, cooking, cakes? What are people doing now? Buttercream, fondant. What's more popular?
Ooh.
Please tell me they're going back to buttercream.
Really popular is the naked cake, which is not, I wouldn't say my cake is true naked cake because I do put a really thin crumb coat on.
Right.
Icing is what keeps the cake moist.
Yep.
So, when it's truly naked, that means there's nothing on the outside. There's just the filling in the cake, which looks super rustic, and a lot of people want it to be rustic, which is fine. But when you tell me, the first inch of the cake was hard, well, it didn't have icing.
Yeah.
And if that's the look they want, then it shouldn't be being served to everyone. I mean, the inside is still going to be moist because of all the layers and the filling, but it is going to be harder and drier because there's nothing protecting the cake. I really do like that look. I love the pulled ice, the icing on the outside, and I prefer buttercream just because I think it's pretty. You can do quite a bit with buttercream that people don't think is buttercream.
They don't realize it.
A lot of times when people send me a picture, they'll be like, I want this done but in fondant, or I want this done in, I'm like, okay, let me show you a picture of what it would, because fondant and buttercream are just not interchangeable. They're not, one is a solid product and one is not. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely say buttercream. A lot of people have veered away from fondant, I think because they don't like it or it's too thick, or I do have a machine that I run mine through, so it is very thin. Okay. I have a sheeter. So basically the intent with fondant is that when it's laid on top of buttercream, it should kind of not dissolve, but it should kind of not have to be chewed bubblegum with the buttercream. Whereas people have had a bad experience with it, that's what they're going to think of. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, buttercream.
Yeah, I like chocolate fondant. It's more like a Tootsie Roll.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you want a full tiered cake of brown? Probably not. But
yeah. All right.
And it also makes the cake much heavier, which is hard when you.
And your cakes are heavy to begin with. I mean, and in a good way, because they're per layers of cake. Let me tell you, people, I'm not joking. Huge.
I do 3 layers of cake, not torted, so not cut. So I do 3 full sizes of cake and then 2 of filling.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. They're typically about 8 to 9 inches tall, each tier, before it's decorated.
Yeah.
They are heavy.
Yeah.
Thank gosh you have an elevator.
Well, I mean, bringing them down sometimes. I used to always be like, oh, I got it. And now I'm like, George, I need help with this. And I hate to ask for help. But sometimes they're just beautifully large. Yeah. Okay. Cover everything. How far do you go? Where's the furthest you delivered a cake?
Oh.
Yee. Because they're all together when you deliver them.
Yes.
For the most part.
Yes. I have tried not assembling them. I mean, I guess things are always changing, right? So you're always trying to get better. And I've asked other bakers what they do, and I've tried the not assembling. I just don't like it. Yeah. Because I fear that it's not centered or it's not this. It's not on my cake wheel, so I can't put the border on. So I do them assembled. The furthest I've went, well, it's West Virginia, but that was family, and I wouldn't recommend it.
Was it all together?
It was just a 2-tiered cake. So if I'm going a certain distance, I'm like, no, it has to be 2-tiered and desserts. But it was 2-tiered. And then you're driving that far in a frigid delivery vehicle because you want to keep it as cool as you can. Lancaster, but that was a true client customer. And that cake scared me to death because it was It was several years ago when I never said no to anybody about design. And it was still one of my favorite cakes to date because I really did take hours. It was a 4-tier cake, but it had an entire front of petals. It was an entire front. So the whole time to Lancaster, you hear the clanging. You hear, and I spent all week making them, and they were dried, and then I put them on the cake, and all you hear is the clanging of it. I'm like, oh no, I can't look at it. So that cake was stressful.
Oh my gosh.
I will go pretty far. It's just the delivery fee that you're willing to pay.
Yeah.
And set up, of course.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not nervous, don't do it.
Oh, I did one in Lake Raystown, which is not that the distance scared me. When we got there, the estate I was going to was literally straight, and it was a 3-tier cake. My mom was actually driving me that day. I don't know why. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get in the back. And I held the dowel rod that was through the cake, but I could feel the tension on the cake. And I was like, when we got there, it had not really moved, but wasn't to my favorite. But we were adding flowers. You could never tell, but
I'm like gripping my hand for nerves for you.
Me too.
I know how that
my mom's
feels.
like, I'm just not going to stop. And I was like, don't stop, just go. So, yeah, it's not the first time I've sat with a cake. So.
Yeah. Or those
happens.
roads and the bumps in the roads, a dirt road.
I never used to ask if it was down a dirt road, and now I have to. I'm like, okay, is that a cabin? Is it on a dirt road?
Yeah.
Because if it is, I don't know if I can bring it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's a maintained dirt road. I'm like, Just last year I did one, and no say of a dirt road, nothing. We typed it into GPS, and all of a sudden we went 10 miles, and it dumped us back out onto a paved road. Like, I don't know if the GPS did the shortest or whatever. It was horrifying. The cake and everything made it fine, and then I was asked if I would deliver there again, and I was like, not a 3-tier cake, definitely. It was horrifying. And I actually told my husband, I said, if you weren't with me, I would have turned around 35 minutes ago. Because it wasn't that it was the dirt, it took you so long, because we were literally, and we knew once we got there was like other cars on this road. They were also like guests of the wedding, so they were probably thinking, where is this taking us?
I would have been on the main road and called and been like, I'm out
Oh,
here.
there was no cell phone service?
Oh, okay, yeah.
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 Which also is not
Oh my
fun.
gosh. And you could write a book. You could definitely write a book. All right. Here's your fun questions.
Okay.
Go ahead. You can just pick them and read them and answer them.
Okay. If you could only store one type of food in your pocket, what would you carry? Ooh, like to eat? For myself?
Yeah, you would want to eat it.
Man, that's a hard one. Probably Tootsie Roll.
Okay.
Yeah. I love Tootsie Rolls.
Just chocolate ones? Or do you
Have
like
to be
flavor?
chocolate.
Okay.
I don't like the flavors.
Okay.
So. Yeah. I mean, I would say chocolate in general, but I don't really love a chocolate bar. I'd say Tootsie Roll.
Okay.
Or a slice of cheese. Man, that one's hard. All right. Let's see. Do you get to answer these too?
Nope, they're for
Oh,
you.
man. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? I know it sounds dumb, but I would just live here.
Oh.
I love it here. I went away to college for a year, and it just wasn't me. I just came back, and I like it. I like this. I like the quiet. Like winter, spring, summer, fall, and we get all those most years. Yeah, I just like it here.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, what do you think of garden gnomes? Oh, my
You gotta say it out loud. So
What do you think of garden gnomes? Yeah. Well, I don't really like them. I typically like the outside of my house to look like one of my cakes. Like, just, I keep everything very pretty. I like flowers and hanging baskets and not garden gnomes. I mean, if I was given one as a present, I'd probably put it out behind a plant. So, they're not my favorite. If you could go back in time to a point in history, when would you visit? Oh, this is easy. I would love to be a 50s housewife.
Oh, me too.
Love it. I love the retro style, like the dresses, and like you took care of babies,
I don't want to do that.
drank alcohol.
Yes, I would want to do that.
And when your man came home, you gave them a drink and had dinner ready, like
smoking cigs in the
right.
kitchen. Yeah.
Having like Tupperware parties.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not for women's rights, 100%. I'm just saying we fought to have them, but it was a really good time.
Yeah, I think it looks fun too.
Right?
I mean,
probably not all the perks that.
Yeah.
But you could just.
What I think we see, the TV
movie,
shows.
yes.
Yeah. The white gloves, the hair up, everything just looks so pretty and neat and packaged up so nicely.
And like you see the style of homes, I love like mid-century modern color and like everything now is so white and drab. My kitchen's not white, but white's fine. But I just like the retro colors and
big old TV with legs.
Yes,
like all that stuff.
I love it. It's sitting on the floor. Yeah. It's probably why I like Target so much, because they have the threshold line, like carries some retro-y thing, which I always like.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm there.
I mean, mustard yellow is like my favorite color. So, what job would you be terrible at? Probably working at Dunkin'.
That's so random.
Because the lines are so long and people are so mean. I mean, okay, I love Dunkin'. I love coffee. But if I get a bad one, it is what it is. Like, I don't know. It doesn't ruin my day.
Right.
Where, like, sometimes I feel like people are like, I don't know. They don't give people grace, I guess. And it's like, just, it's coffee. That shouldn't be enough to ruin your day.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, yes, if it's more than like once or twice, you're like, hey, my last cup of coffee has been a little.
Mm-hmm.
But I think drive-through in general, because I think it's a hard job. And I think people don't give it enough credit. I think food industry is a hard job that people don't really think is. So.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, I work in my basement with myself. There's a reason. When I worked in public, I had, 5 employees, and it was always putting out fires, or someone was mean to me. I need a minute, and I get it, because, words hurt way, way more than actions normally.
Mm-hmm.
It sticks with a person. So I think anything working in the public, oof. It's so hard. I just work in my basement.
It is so hard.
And I'll deliver it when no one's around. I deliver everything before anyone shows up. And honestly, a lot now with these cake tasting boxes, I don't meet the brides and grooms. So it is nice if when they do come to pick up, they're like, hey, I'm so-and-so, and this is so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because then I can put, their face with. But a lot of times I don't know anybody.
Yeah, well, these days, everything is...
Virtual,
you get an email. Yeah, you're lucky if you get a Zoom so you can see them.
A lot is through email because I can look back on it and like reflect on our conversation, because they're booking in January, your wedding's in October. I've done 45 weddings in that time. So typically in a year, the last I'd say 5 years, I've been at 60 weddings. Last year was 63, but typically when I have that many, I might not remember.
Yeah.
So,
but your email is a good point too. I try to request that all of our communication is via email, not text or
Oh,
phone calls or another way. If we can keep everything via email, then it's one conversation thread that we can refer back to so I don't miss something another way. You feel the same way about that?
Definitely. I think texting is the hardest because, they text your phone and you're like, oh, wait, I don't have your number saved.
Yeah.
And then you save their number. But I think definitely email because of the thread. And like they can see it's not just for me. I mean, it's a two-way street. And if they send me photos, they're there. They're saved.
Yeah.
And a phone call, I never mind a phone call ever. Mm-hmm. But after the phone call, I'm sitting in my office and then I immediately email because I want them to know this is what we talked about. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. I still keep our phone conversation in email form.
That's a good idea too. And sometimes a phone call is warranted. I mean, because sometimes you can't, when you're emailing, you can't really
describe,
or like the tone of an email sometimes might be off. So if you jump on a phone conversation, it might be a tone taken out of context totally. So if you're on the phone with someone and you're like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay?
Does that ever happen to you? Like
a lot?
I mean, I think once people meet me, I am not intimidated. I mean, I'm not intimidating to anybody. So I think when I'm emailing, I do try to keep it very professional. I don't know who's on the other side. I don't know if they want it to be fun or giggly or
right.
So I keep it professional but I do not mean it in any way to be harsh.
Yeah.
And I think people take it that way. I mean? Or, hey, I need X, Y, and Z answered. I need it by 5:00. And it's like, but what do you... And I'm like, no, I didn't mean that rudely. I just need it. You know what I mean?
I try and keep it professional. And I try and keep it as short as possible.
Yes.
I'm not like flowery and, so that can come across as harsh sometimes. So that's when maybe you need to jump on the phone and be like,
right.
When you hear someone talking and then it's a whole different story. Like for instance, I met with a bride recently and we had our meeting, tasting, everything, and everything we talked about, I was like, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, if that's what you're looking for, we can change that. We can, add this to your menu, blah, blah. So at the end of our meeting, she was like, oh my God, this went so much better than I thought. So everything we had done up to that point was via email, but after our one-on-one, she felt totally different because I wanted to do everything she wanted the whole way, but once we met in person, then she realized, yes, I really was going to do everything she wanted. I meant that, so now she's totally at ease.
Genuinely.
Yeah.
I also think age range, I meet with, there's some very young brides and they'll text you or, what I mean? Communication's different throughout generations.
Sure is.
I have some brides that are, midlife or whatever, you know what I mean? And they're like, I'd really just like to meet and talk. And I'm fine with that. So I think at this point, it's really what works for the business and the bride and everybody. It is hard to meet in person for me because I do have 2 young children, a husband, a house, sports. They each play 2 things. But when a bride is like, I really just need to, I definitely fit that in. I definitely like, okay, it might have to be 7:00 on a Tuesday, but if you're there, I'm there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen too often, but definitely a phone conversation. They feel a little more at ease, which I can understand when you're spending how much money you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, one more?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going. If you had a chance to eat dessert for breakfast every day, what dessert would you go with?
That's a good question for you.
Do
you eat dessert for breakfast every day as it is?
I do not. But if I'm out to eat, I do order dessert first. I always order dessert first.
Do you?
I encourage my kids to. I encourage everybody to. Because, you eat this huge meal, you don't have room for dessert.
You eat dessert first?
Yes, I do.
That is so awesome.
I do, because if I'm out to dinner, it's a special occasion anyway, or something. If it's just an everyday weeknight and we're getting hoagies, then no. But if there's a dessert I want, yeah, I order it first.
Awesome.
You live once.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. That's what I've been trying to.
And if I
by
don't
lately.
eat the whole thing, I take it home and enjoy it for breakfast. So, and I typically do not share my desserts. So if you want dessert, get your own.
Joey doesn't share his food.
Get your
Sam
own.
doesn't share food.
For breakfast, though, my absolute favorite dessert is a brownie. So, and so if we go somewhere new, I always am looking for bakeries, or you know what I mean. And what I've learned in my travels is that a lot of people, especially Pittsburgh, State College area, have in-home bakeries like me. It's like at first I was like, oh no, I won't have any customers. No, it's very common. Like, there's separate entrance and all that. Like, they're all super professional, licensed places like mine.
Yeah.
That you don't walk into and get something. Like, I'll drive up to somewhere and be like, oh, this is like my bakery. But if I do find a bakery, I always get a brownie. I judge a place on the same thing, a brownie, everywhere I go.
Wow.
And it has to have icing. Like, I feel like a
Okay.
brownie. So my brownies are a brownie, a layer of ganache, and then I do dip them in milk chocolate or white chocolate. But the hard coating is simply so they can be stacked, because ganache softens at room temperature. So, and that's I don't want to stack them, and when the guests are getting them, they're all stuck together and everything. So I do it. I mean, it tastes good too, but I do it for appearance. But I judge a place if it has icing on a brownie.
Do you like creme brulee?
Oh, I love that. Would be my second favorite.
Okay, listen. Have you ever been to Johnson's Cafe and had their creme brulee?
No.
I'd like to say it's the best creme brulee in the country. I try it everywhere I go. I always come back to Johnson's. Right now, they have a chocolate peanut butter creme brulee.
I don't eat peanut butter.
All right, well, they have regular creme brulee too. Seasonally, they'll make different flavors, like lead pumpkin in the fall and stuff like that.
Brulee.
They make it with real vanilla bean. I mean, it's the most delicious creme brulee.
This year for Christmas, I was like, I want to do the meal, which people are like, since you baked, I'm like, listen, I'm not a chef. I'm a baker, which I really value what my stuff tastes like. But I'm not like, when I make dinner for my kids, it's not gourmet. But I did, and I said, well, for dessert for Christmas, I'm gonna make creme brulee. Everybody, I like to make it too, and it's my husband's absolute favorite, so I do make it. Oh, he'll eat like 4 of them at a time if I make them at home.
Okay, I have not had your creme brulee.
I do make it with vanilla bean and the whole.
Well, I'm sure you do. I didn't know you made creme brulee though.
Yes. Well.
I mean, for you guys.
Yeah.
Because how are you going to make it for a large?
Right, like for
wedding,
a dessert buffet, how am I going to make it?
I think you should figure that out.
That'll be my okay.
Add that.
That'll be my next thing I think about.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking how.
Creme brulee. If I make it though, I'll save one for you.
All right.
What's the best sitcom past or present? Oh, that one's easy. Is it King of Queens? Is that what?
Oh, I love that.
Kevin James is my favorite.
Yeah, I love that one. I
Kevin
watch it all the
James.
time.
Yeah. And sometimes I'll miss like one and it'll be on TV. I'm like, oh, I've never seen this one?
Really?
Like, this show's from so long ago. But I think I like funny, like, when I watch TV, I want it to like make me happy or relieve stress, or I don't want it to be like, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah.
So I really like Kevin James. I think he's funny.
I love that show.
What's the worst fast food restaurant? I mean, Long John Silver's. I don't eat fish, so no. I don't really like fried food either, and I think probably everything's fried there, so no.
That's my cousin's favorite.
Long John Silver's?
Yeah, she loves it. LJS.
One time I had hush puppies from there. And I was like, these things are incredible. And the next time they were like, tasted like the fish fry. I was like, what is this? I'm never eating this again. What's one movie you could watch over and over and over and over? The Holiday. With Kate Winslet and
Is Jack Black in that?
Jack Black's in that. Yep. Cameron Diaz.
Yeah.
Jude Law. Yeah. I watch it every Christmas. I love it. It's just set at Christmas time. So, yeah. I like that movie a lot. Any girly movie, I mean.
Yeah.
If you won the lottery, what would be your first big splurge? I would build an ice rink.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
My son, Freddie, my 8-year-old, he's been in hockey since he was 3. So we are in state college 4 nights a week, 4 days a week.
Really?
Oh yeah, 4 nights a week. And we're traveling to Pittsburgh every weekend.
Oh my goodness.
Often. During the winter, which is, thank God, is not prime wedding season. But I would build him an ice rink so he could have an ice rink at our house.
One year Herman bought an ice rink here. It was like this blow up thing that we put on the patio.
Did people come?
It was something with getting it insured that there was a problem. So like George and his kids and stuff played on it and stuff for a while.
We have an ice rink in our yard.
Yeah.
That we set up, and it's definitely when it's cold enough. But this year,
no way.
I think he used it 1 week in December when it was frigid, and now it does need to be taken down. The water's a bit green, but he checks it every day. He looks at it every day. He's like, "Let me check my ice." I'm like, "Oh, it's algae water," but okay.
Yeah, not this time.
Yeah. What's your most used emoji? The laughing emoji. I always use it because I don't want people to think I'm being serious, so I just always put the laughing emoji. Yeah. Yeah. I think even when I email you, I'm like, okay. What's one food you could eat for the rest of your life? Probably eggs. I like them any way they come.
Your answers have been great. I love all your
I
answers.
like scrambled eggs. I like hard boiled. Yeah, eggs.
And I agree with like all of your answers too, except the ice rink. I have no need for an ice rink.
Well, my second on my list was a new car, but like that's just selfish, and I don't need one. But yeah.
Well, I agree with the new car. I'd be selfish and get a new car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably justify it in some way to be for my children.
Yeah, you're gonna haul them around. Yeah.
Yeah.
The kids need more room back there.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fabulous getting to know you better, and I'm sure everyone learned so much about Samantha and everything you have to offer, and people are going to run right out even more than, well, listen, you got to book her. That's the thing, you got to book her early because 63 weddings in a year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's normally between May and October, too.
Yeah.
So I might get like a Christmas one here and there. And I do much more than just weddings. I mean, there are weekends next weekend, so I've been off for a little bit because I had my foot done, but it's all healed. So next week I'm back to work. I have like 12 orders. So I do definitely specialty things as well. Like people order sticky buns or a birthday cake and
everything.
Now, the good part about booking early with a wedding is that is my main focus. So if I have 3 weddings on a Saturday, there might be 2 birthday cakes. Do you know what I mean? And they're not going to be like Minecraft or something hard. But I do focus on weddings, and then the other stuff trickles in.
Yeah. And I'll have all your contact information so people can get in touch with you, email you. Email me.
I'll get back to you much faster. Sometimes if I'm like at the ice rink, I don't take the phone call because I'll forget. So then I listen to the message and then So
well, you want to be with your kids. You want to be present too. So
it's busy, you know.
Yeah.
So
you got to take time for your family. All right. Thanks so much. This was wonderful. I
Thank you
appreciate your time.
What's the name again? The
Carriage House Conversations. Yes. I was going to say that backwards. Carriage House Conversations number 11. Thanks, guys.